There is no hood like parenthood. Hi, I'm Kanika Chadda Gupta. I'm a former CNN journalist, mom of three, including twins, and host of That's Total Mom Sense, the podcast. Now, if I had $1 every time I heard, gee, you have your hands full. On my show, I interview change makers on their life lessons, legacy, and superpower of intuition, which I call our mom sense and dad sense. I've had the privilege of working with Mom 2.0, March of Dimes, and the White House, and have had some pretty amazing parents on my show.
Hey, what's up? I'm Kelly Rowland.
Hi, this is Chelsea Clinton.
It's me, Bobby Brown. Can't wait to share my story.
That's Total Mom Sense is a production of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and on YouTube so you never miss an episode. To join my tribe, visit that'stotalmomsense.com and follow me on Instagram at Kanika Chadda Gupta. Now let's dive into today's episode. My family is a rambunctious party of five, and living organic is a priority for us. We sleep for 1/3 of our lives. Think about that. So it's important for me to know that my kids aren't breathing in unnecessary chemicals 10 to 12 hours a night. I discovered Naturepedic at a mom conference and have been a believer ever since. They're a company that designs mattresses, pillows, and bedding that are certified organic with numerous awards to prove it. I love the Verse collection, which is 100% GOTS certified organic cotton and wool, is free from glues, adhesives, or polyurethane foam, and passes flammability standards without fire retardants or chemical additives. Plus, for my twins, their 2-in-1 transitional kids mattresses were a game changer. Once they were potty trained, we could just flip from the waterproof side to the quilted side. If you're looking for organic sleep essentials for your family, look no further. Shop at naturepedic.com and use my code MOMSENSE to receive 15% off your order. And rest assured, pun intended, you're in good hands. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with an inspiring leader, entrepreneur, and mom who is redefining what it means to navigate business and family. Garima Shah is the president and co-founder of Biller Genie, a fintech company that helps small and medium-sized businesses streamline invoicing and payments. But beyond that, Garima is a dedicated mother of two tween girls, a believer in creating lasting family memories, and someone who integrates her business acumen into her parenting style. Today, we'll dive into her journey from selling door to door at 19 years old to founding companies, leading a fintech revolution, and being a hands-on mom. Welcome to That's Total Mom Sense, Garima.
Thank you so much for having me, Kanika. I am so honored to be here. And that was such a beautiful introduction. So thank you for that. I hope to live up to all the things you said.
Oh, you do. You do. I want to take it back to when we were in college because we both went to Boston University and had some overlap. And I want to know what led you to be you.
So first of all, what a small world. I can't believe that we both get to be you. That is such a small world. Know all the same people. I'm sure we've been in the same places, in the same rooms over the years, but just crazy to know that. What led me to you is that I wanted to go into advertising and graphic design. And I applied to a couple schools. One was USC, which was in California, and then BU. And then Miami was kind of, okay, if I was going to stay in Florida, but I really wanted to leave. And BU was considered the top school in advertising at the time. And honestly, California was really far. So I decided to go to BU. It was on the East Coast. I loved the city. I remember going to campus for the first time and just falling in love. And that just it moment is what led me to BU.
Yes, I love it. And what about some of the life lessons that your parents passed on, especially when you were charting your own path and leaving home?
Yeah, my parents, like most immigrant parents, and I know that you share this story, this connection, but I was born in the UK. My parents are from India, and my parents moved from the UK to from India to Africa to the UK and the States when I was quite young. And my father was doing his residency here, and my mother is a computer programmer. And so for them, just like so many others, I think that imagined that I would probably go into medicine or engineering or law. And when those didn't really seem like a great fit, I remember my parents being like, they were actually very supportive and very like, well, look, whatever, the world is your oyster. You're kind of a wrecking ball. So whatever you want to do, and I've always kind of been that way. So whatever you want to do, it's gonna be a lot of fun. So they were very supportive of the idea of advertising, and they thought that communications would be a lot of fun. And they knew I loved public speaking, and so that was all great. The sales, not so much. When I ended up in sales, that was definitely a very big shock to, I think, them and probably everybody else around me.
Yes, yes, I love that, and I think, there's a beauty in the pivot. I, relate to this completely because I was, at SMG, the School of Management, as a freshman, and I just was like, "I don't belong here." I just felt like, "Oh my gosh, I wish I could go to comm," which is where you were, and it's amazing how we swapped, because once I got into media and did my master's at University of Miami, actually, that's when I felt like I found my groove. And oftentimes, college isn't, the only foundation you need to like be like, okay, I'm going to solidify myself in this industry. You just change it up. And I love how you took whatever you learned in comm, but applied it to finance and sales. That just makes you so much more well rounded.
Yeah, and I think college is so much more about, we talked a little bit about like soft skills and everything else and being away from home that first time. And I remember having to go to an eye exam and I was like, I can't see and I don't know what I'm supposed to do about this. And of course, from where I was from, Melbourne, Florida, my parents knew everybody. If I needed an eye exam, my dad would call one of his friends and I would end up at his office the next day. And I was like, I
Right.
don't even know what I'm supposed to do. So I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, how do I get an eye exam? And she's like, call an eye doctor. I was like, she's like, why are you calling me? Call an eye doctor. And it's lessons that I think that college is so much more about is like learning that independence, learning that time management, learning that how to those skills that are so much more than what you get in the classroom.
Yes, yes. And you did decide to graduate early at the ripe age of 19. And that's when you started your first kind of foray into the career that you're doing now, selling door to door for Bell South Communications. And you quickly became the number one sales rep in the country, which is just incredible. So tell us about that.
So I moved down to Miami because my husband, then boyfriend, which it would have been really crazy if that didn't work out because I moved all the way to Miami for him, right? But,
Yes.
so I moved down to Miami because that's where he was. He was University of Miami, and I wanted to work there and live in Miami because I also am not a cold weather kind of girl. I'm a Florida girl through and through.
Yeah.
So moving back to Miami was great. I interviewed at some ad agencies and realized that the amount of time that I needed to put in to move up and to do the things I wanted, which was to create a Super Bowl ad, which sounds like a crazy lofty goal. And now when I hear a 19-year-old coming in for an interview and they say things like that, I think of myself and that moment of, oh, you got it. You just, they just believe it so hard at that age. And so when I interviewed, I knew that that's not what I wanted. And when I went to go interview at the sales agency, they were like, look, you make your own future, you make your own destiny. It's going to be as hard as you work, as smart as you are, how quickly you pick up is what is going to make you money and what's going to make you move. And I was like, wait, all of this is determined by me. I can do that. This is great. I love that. And so that's what really got me into sales. But I think that it taught me for the first time in my life that no one cares what you know. No one cares how smart you are. No one cares how many books you've read. It only matters how hard you're going to work. And
Right.
it was really inspiring to see the people around me say, well, no, if you just work harder than everyone else, you're going to win. And that was the first lesson that my first boss taught me is that if you just work harder than everyone else and you just really focus and put that passion every single day, you're going to succeed. And I think that that's driven me so far forward in my career because it is really about that work ethic. And really, no one cares that you know something. No one cares that you did this yesterday. It's what are you going to do today? How are you going to show up? What's that passion you're going to bring? And door to door sales sucks, especially in Miami.
Yeah.
It's like
Oh my gosh, I
102
can
degrees,
imagine.
wearing a suit, you're sweating. It sucks. But I mean, it's the best. I would go back and do that again. If I had nothing in my life, I would go back and do that job again because you can decide your own destiny.
Yes, yes, and it builds character and grit, and I feel like those are the trappings you need to succeed in life, so I am with you. It's important to just pay your dues early on and do it. And then, a year later, you started your own company. So what prompted you to take that big leap?
So I was, like you said, 19 years old and I had just turned 20. My manager went on maternity leave and she asked me to run her company for her. And I was like, I can do this. Although the first day that I started that job, I had to fire someone who was more than double my age for committing fraud. And that was a huge life lesson. But I realized that I actually enjoyed managing and running things and understanding the P&L and understanding the financials. And that was really exciting to me, that part of the business. And so I decided, well, I could do this on my own. And I decided to open a sales and marketing firm. And that's how I got into fintech because my first client was a fintech payments company. And I had no idea what I was selling. I just knew that I could teach people how to sell and things would be great.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And how did you break through barriers in the industry? Because, fintech is very male dominated and there's no denying that you have to like make yourself seen, heard, and like validated by all those in your team and those who are higher up. So how'd you do that?
Yeah, when I first sold my company, so when I owned my own company, it was fine, right? Because it was just me and that was easy. I had weird things like people walking in an interview asking to talk to my boss or things, things like that. That would happen all the time for sure in those early days. But when I really started working more on the corporate side of fintech, after I sold my business, one of the corporations I sold to actually ended up hiring me to run their sales force. And that's when I first felt this, hold on, you're expecting different things of me. I remember people telling me that, oh, only wear black suits, don't wear red lipstick, wear closed-toed shoes, you're entering a boardroom. And I am a sparkly pink, make it all fun kind of chick. This was hard. And there was a lot of this like speak when you're spoken to kind of atmosphere. And I think that took me a few years to get over. And I think that what the turning point was, I remember very clearly, I was probably 24, 25 years old in a board meeting near Wall Street. And what was being said was completely inaccurate, just 100% inaccurate, totally wrong. And, there was all these kind of talking heads who were much older than me, male, and just having this conversation that was inaccurate. And so I couldn't keep myself quiet any longer. I'm not very good at keeping quiet to begin with. So
Mm-hmm.
wait a second, that's not right. And let me tell you all the reasons. And here's all the facts. And here's this. And I remember the chairman of the board, he pulled me aside and he's like, why don't you do that more often? Like your input is valid. You should do that more often. And that was great. And I think that was the turning point for me to just be more myself and wear the sparkles, wear the open toes, have fun, speak loudly, be heard, but just make sure you're prepared to answer questions and make sure that you have all of that in your back because you will be scrutinized more. You will be probably taken for granted more. So you need to be more prepared. You need to have more information. You need to know your stuff probably better than everyone else in the room when you are younger, when you are a different gender, when you are a minority, all of those things. But I will tell you that I actually think it's fantastic because I think you stand out more. People remember you. They remember my name. They remember what I said. They remember meeting me. And I've kind of used that to my advantage. So I think it's great. Like, I actually think that being a woman in a male dominated industry is so helpful. As long as you know your stuff, you're going to be memorable and you're going to be that person who sticks out. And so just continue doing that and like really lean into that and find your personal brand because it will make you that person. People like, oh yeah, I did this with X, Y, and Z versus the sea of other people that they may meet.
Yes, I'm so with you. One of my recent interviews was with Angela Chi. She is a television anchor and now a communication coach. And she wrote a book called The Power of the Only. And this is exactly that. It's like when you are the only person who looks like you and has your background in a room, own it. Just own it. And, of course, live by the tenet of, be the first, not the last, but it's a very powerful place to be. So that's so great. I love it. So on to unconventional leadership and building your thriving business. So tell us, high level, what Biller Genie does and its mission.
Sure. Accounts receivable automation, which I now know sounds so sexy, so exciting, right? Not a field that I ever thought I would be in, but it's basically at the end of the day, what we do is we work with small and mid-sized businesses to get them paid faster. So if you think of every business, from a landscaper to an electrician to your accountant or lawyer that sends out a bill, there's someone in their office that is doing that, that's preparing that, that's sending it, reconciling it, stapling it all together, and doing all of that manual labor. And then it's going to someone else to really ensure that all of the bookkeeping is accurate. We take away all of the busy work and all of the manual processes. And by doing so, the US average is it takes about 47 days for a business owner to get paid from an invoice. Biller Genie gets people paid in about 9 days. And you're an entrepreneur, you've been a business owner, you know how important that time value of money, cash flow is. And that's what we focus on is we help businesses get paid much, much faster so that they can really focus on making their business thrive and making their business flourish, and let us handle all of the nitty gritty administrative work of invoicing and billing.
That's excellent. And I remember, as I was doing my own recon and research, I listened to you speak on many other podcasts and panels. And you actually brought up how the healthcare system and how bills and insurance companies get this so wrong. So, what would you do to resolve that? Because the fact that there's just a lot of pushing paper and bills that need to be adjusted and with the insurance companies involved, how do we make it more streamlined and get the doctors paid and bills accounted for faster?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think healthcare is going to be one of the final frontiers in terms of billing and invoicing, unfortunately,
Hmm.
just because of the way reimbursements work with insurance and things like that. But I know that we work with quite a few healthcare softwares, and I know that there are quite a few more out there that are looking to streamline the way that this happens. But at the end of the day, it's going to come down to that industry has to be automated, just like everything else. If you think about what we do on a day-to-day basis, you get your car through an Uber on your app on your phone. You order your things, your groceries on Instacart. You get your kids' birthday supplies on Amazon, and you're just doing all of this from your phone. And it's so frictionless, so seamless. Why is it then when it goes to billing and invoicing and reminding people and reconciliation, why is that so manual? I mean, 90% of businesses worldwide still have a manual invoicing and accounts receivable process, which is just mind boggling. And there are so industries like the healthcare industry that really need to step up their game. For us, what we're doing is just really working with those small and mid-sized business owners on through our partnerships and through software integrations to make it more accessible to them and make it easier for them to have these types of products that they can focus on healthcare.
Yes, yes, that's how it should be. And now tell us about how you run your org because you're just making up the rules and just kind of rewriting and reframing how things should be done. And it's just so refreshing. So refreshing. So as an example, you have 6.5 minute job interviews. And how do you get to the crux of who somebody is and what they're about in that time frame and know that yeah, that's all I needed?
So the job interview is something that started a long time ago for me. When I ran my sales company, we would interview sometimes 30, 40 people a day, and you didn't have a lot of time to do you didn't have a lot of time to do an interview. I think at
Yeah.
the end of the day, job interview comes down to ability and desire. And generally, if someone has gotten to my desk, we already know they have the ability. They've already shown us, whether from their resume, from their skills assessment, from their background, that they have the basic ability. Now you're going to find out whether or not they have the desire. And desire is really about, are you a good cultural fit for my organization at this time? And that's
Mm,
what that interview is about. And at the end of the day, I can spend 3 hours with you and you can have the best foot forward. And then you might show up the next day and still be completely different. And 60 days later, you might be different from that. So to me, it's that gut check of, I'm going to ask you some questions. I'm going to move quickly. I'm going to see if you can keep up with me. I'm going to tell you my core values. I'm going to learn a little bit about you. And we're going to make a gut check decision on whether or not we think we can work together. Because at the end of the day, you don't know what you're getting into, and I don't know what I'm getting into. And it's probably going to take us 30, 60, 90 days to figure that out. So instead of trying to make a long interview process where we're trying to lie to each other for the next however long, let's just make it really quick, get people in, and then spend the time getting to know them when they're in the position, because that's how we're honest with them too and fully transparent.
Yes, so true, so true. I always think about that. Like, in my kids' school, kids have shadow days. And that's how teachers and the kids themselves can see themselves at that school. And I'm like, gosh, with
Right?
employment and vying for a new job, there should just be shadow days. It's like, do
Absolutely.
you like it? Can you hack it? Like, that's all it comes down to.
Yeah, because you
Um,
don't know what you're signing up for. And I feel like sometimes people feel like
yeah,
an interview and they feel like they have to impress the interviewer. And it's like, well, but you should want this too.
right.
You should be in love with where you're coming as well.
Yes, yes. And on that note, there was a new hire you had once, and you had to fire them right on the spot. So tell us why that was.
Yeah, I mean, that was actually pretty recent. And, we had a new hire class and class Monday morning, it starts at 9 a.m. And it was 9:15. The person wasn't here. We had 7 other people in the class. It was 9:15. The person was here. No call, no show. 9:30, someone on our team contacted them, the hiring manager, and they said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I slept through my alarm. I'll be there." But they kind of sounded very nonchalant about it. And so I was like, I think we should tell the person not to come in. And I know that's really harsh. And I've gotten some flack from people saying, well, that's really harsh. But the way I look at it is this is your first day. If you're going to make a good impression, you're going to try to do it today. And if this was your best impression, like life gets in the way for everybody. It happens. It happens that there's traffic and your alarm doesn't go off. That happens for everyone. But then your response should be, I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to call you, not making us contact you. It should be, I am so sorry. I'm so apologetic and owning it. And when I felt like that person didn't have those qualities, that they were just kind of like, yeah, I mean, whatever, I'm late. That made me feel like, well, you don't seem to care or understand what we're trying to build here. And it's disrespectful for everybody else who's in that room because they did wake up. They did show up on time. They did do all of the things and they are excited to be here. And I don't really think this is a fit because you don't seem to be that excited to be here.
Yes, yes, I love it. I love it. And I don't think it's kind of ruthless at all. I think it's staying true to the core values. And I remember there was a quote that I'd come across. I'm paraphrasing, but Warren Buffett said that his only regret was not firing certain people sooner. And there's just something so profound about that. It's like if you know that there's someone who's not going to be a team player or will be making excuses or is dead weight, then, why drag out the process? So I'm with you. I love it.
Absolutely.
And you also focus on your employees' various zones of genius. And I think this is genius because, everyone has certain strengths that they really want to lean into. And it doesn't matter which department they're in, but you need someone at the top to really foster that. So, how do you do that with your teams?
I think the way I do it is I use a few tools to be honest. Like one is Culture Index, which really tells us a little bit about what someone's intrinsic qualities are. This person might be more outgoing. This person might be more introverted. This person may be more analytical. This person may be more logical. And look, it's not infallible, but it gives us a general sense of what the way people lean intrinsically. When we
Yeah,
take that and then we start also working with people and having conversations. So every person on our team is required to have a weekly one-on-one and required to have quarterlies. And there's so many other things where we are checking in. And the questions that we ask are like, hey, are you happy? What are you doing every day that works for you? What doesn't work? What are things that you wish you could take off your plate? And what we've been really, really, really good at is moving people around within our organization in that zone of genius. And I think that that's so cool because, you always talk about right seat, right bus. For the most part, most people have been here past 90. It's the right bus. It's just we need to find the right seat. We need to find where your genius is going to shine. We've made up positions for people because they're so incredible and they're so great at being a Billerjean employee. They have the values. They understand what we do and how we do it. But where the seat that they're in just isn't the right fit, but they could bring us so much more value someplace else. And by really focusing on people's zone of genius and not making them fit in a box, what ends up happening is we grow as a company because we're using all of the creativity, the creative power that comes from everybody's genius showing. And you just
right.
have incredible people doing incredible things. Like you look to your right, like we always talk about, like we never want to look to your right or look to your left and be like, oh, why is that guy here? You should be able to look to your right, oh my God, you're incredible and you're incredible. I better step up my game. And so I really like the Jack Welch idea of like keep the top 90% and get rid of the bottom 10% at all times, because you will always just have the cream of the crop.
Yes, yes. Oh, so with you.
At That Total Mom Sense, we celebrate family, culture, and the everyday moments that matter most. And that's why I trust Lexus. Their cars are designed to make every journey unforgettable. This AAPI Heritage Month and beyond, Lexus honors the strength and stories of our community, because when luxury meets legacy, the standard is amazing. Head to Lexus.com and follow Lexus USA on social media to find your next adventure.
You've also cultivated a book culture in your company where everyone has required reading. So, what are some of those books?
I wanted to be a teacher at first when I was in school. And so I think I make people do a lot of like PowerPoint presentations and read a lot of books. But I mean,
That's great.
before people start, they have to read a book called What the Heck is EOS before their first day, which is just tells them about how we run as a company, what values we use, what are metrics, what are KPIs. And all it does is it's business 101 in a very easy, accessible manner. That's what that Gazebo says. But in our sales team, they have to read gap selling. In our service teams, they have to read effortless experience. Our leadership team has to read 5 dysfunctions of a team, as well as our management team. They have to read 5 dysfunctions of a team. So those are just the basic books in every position that are required. And then we try to find new books all the time that really mean something to our organization. So last quarter, we did a book summary on 10X is easier than 1X. So that we did that. And then right now for this quarter, for our management executive teams, we're having them read the Unicorn Team and taking the quiz on Unicorn Team and ensuring that we know where everybody fits and how they can work well together.
I love it. I love that there's unicorn in your frames behind you. That's amazing. That's so great. We have to get this list for you for our show notes, because even if you're not in fintech, I feel like so many of these books can apply to life and how you run your own business or corporate or whatever industry you're in. So that's wonderful. And you also implemented a presidential fitness competition within
Yeah.
Billergini. So what's that about?
So that's new. I do a lot of weird workout things. I'm pretty hyper. And so one day, so Tom, my partner and I, we we compete a lot with each other. So one day I said, can you juggle? Can you throw a tennis ball back and forth while holding a plank? Because I just got to 20 this morning. How many can you get to? And he's like, that's easy. So he's at the office with me. So we text the entire office saying, does anybody have a tennis ball so we can try this, right? Someone had a tennis ball in their car, and Tom got on the floor in the middle of our conference room and he demonstrated, and of course he failed. And then I showed everybody how to do it. And then I was like, anybody who can beat me gets free lunch. So someone got on the floor and she beat me and she was awesome. And that came up with this idea of, what if we had this presidential physical fitness? We talked a lot about like resolutions, and we don't talk about resolutions. We talk about non-regrets instead of resolutions. So what would you not want to regret this year? So we have a big board about non-regrets. And a lot of people talked about being healthy lifestyles. So we started doing this thing where we have a different challenge kind of every 2 weeks. And it could be a squat challenge. It could be a juggling challenge. It could be just whatever, just funny little things. And you can win kind of badges or patches for this presidential physical fitness. But it's something that we get to do together.
That is so fun. So fun. And I think it's really important to imbibe just a fun loving culture in the workplace, because then everybody wants to be there. You know, they're like just raring to come in. That's a great thing. Oh, wow. And now let's shift gears to motherhood and family values, because you really do infuse a lot of your business acumen and those core pillars into the home, which I have like rarely seen. So this is just really remarkable that you do this. So tell us a little bit about your family life to start.
Yeah, so I've got 2 girls, 10 and almost 13. So as you said, tween girls, and they're awesome. And I remember when I first started in corporate America, one of the things that someone said on my 360 was, oh my God, I feel so bad for her children because she works so hard and travels all the time. And I remember that feeling like a dagger and being like, we all have mom guilt. We all
Yeah.
wonder and think about whether or not I'm doing the right thing. But at that time, my kids were really young. And I was like, oh my God, like what's happening? But it's been so cool because then I was like, well, just embrace it because that's who I am. And I want my girls to see what hard work and determination can get for you and what all of this means. And you still take time out for them, but you need to explain it. So the easiest way for me to do that is by incorporating my children into what I do, right? And like making them understand things like what is revenue and what does it mean to what are these business decisions I'm making? And read like they Google me randomly and they'll be like, Mom, I read about this and tell me what this partnership means. And like I think that's really cool because it just teaches them what I do, how to do it, and whether or not they ever want to go in fintech, because they probably don't. It's just them learning how business works because those values are going to mean something regardless of what industry they go into. My daughter wanted to start a bracelet making business a few years ago, and she had $70 and she said it was going to cost her 90 to start the business. So I gave her a $20 loan and I actually wrote up a loan document. And I said she was going to have to pay interest to me on this loan. And that, and then we created like an entire Excel spreadsheet of how much does a bracelet cost to make and how much is her time worth and how much is she's going to sell it for and how is she going to distribute it and all of those questions. And it made her start understanding. She was 9 at the time. She's now 12.
Wow.
But it made her start understanding like, okay, well, if I'm going to invest $70, which for her is her entire life savings, if I'm going to invest $70 and take $20 loan from my mom, then I've got to make this business work and I've got to make it make sense. And these are all of the ways that I'm going to do that. And so that's really how I incorporate some of those things because they learn really early and they're so excited about it. They love that stuff.
That is so cool. I love it. And this actually extends into a conversation you'd have with them about the line of work that they choose to pursue, because you actually give them that kind of awakening of like, if this is the lifestyle you want, then this is what you need to earn. And however you want to get there, like that's all fine. But let's just, make sure we like aren't willy-nilly about it. So break that down for us.
My little one at one time, so I think she was maybe 7 or 8 at the time, was like, I just don't want to go to school anymore. I just don't want to go to school anymore. And I said, well, if you don't go to school, then how are you going to get a great job? And how are you going to do all these things? You have to learn all these things. She's like, well, I don't really care. I think everybody should just share everything. And I was like, okay, my little socialist, that's not happening.
Socialist, yeah.
And I was like, that's not
That's
happening.
so cute. Yeah.
And so I said, well, what do you want to do? And she said, well, I want to be a singer. I want to be this. And she had all these ideas. And I was like, great. I was like, tell me what kind of house do you want to live in? Okay, tell me what kind of car you want to buy. Tell me what kind of, we just started having this conversation and said, so why don't you Google the income for any of these different jobs and how many people make it? Why don't you just Google what the average income is? Okay, now let's figure out how much you make per month. And so how much do you think groceries cost? And how much do you think dinner costs? And how much do you think, and we started having that conversation. She's like, oh man, okay. Because she is like my dreamer. And she's like, I want to go live on a private island in Hawaii. I was like, great. Do you know how much a private island costs? And so just being able to have that conversation with her made it so much easier. And I think sometimes, I know for my husband and I, sometimes we shied away from being very transparent about numbers because you don't want your kids feeling like, oh, we have this or we don't have this, and really thinking about just being overly materialistic. But
Right.
it's important, I think, for them to understand how much Starbucks costs and how much it costs to go to the grocery store, because those are just, they're going to pay those things. And if they say, my kids will be like, I want to go to Starbucks. I'm like, really? Well, that's really expensive. And do you have that kind of money? Like, do you have the $8 cost for that drink? And it just makes them start understanding that there is a value to every single dollar and how they save. And we have a ticket system where we give them tickets and we give them dollars per ticket. They have to save 20%. And then we give them $1 for each of those tickets at the end of the month, and they get to spend it however they want. But it has to include tax. So they have to understand what sales tax is. And they have to understand what and 20% has to be saved. So they have to start understanding what happens and how hard it was to make that money, that it doesn't just show up. It's hard to make it. And so you have to be very conscientious about how you spend it and how you invest it and how to make your dollar worth more, not just how do we spend the dollar that we have today.
Yes, yes. So then do you give them allowance then, or is it in the form
I
of the
don't.
tickets? Yeah.
We do tickets. I'm thinking now as my daughter, like this is like a weird navigation thing because my daughter's
Yeah.
turning 15, and I'm like, I kind of feel like I should give her an allowance, but at the same time, I'm like, I don't want her feeling like she gets money for free, but I don't want to pay her for
Exactly.
chores. I
For
don't
the
want to pay her
chores either. Oh, it's such a
for
conundrum.
right, because I don't want to, because that's, you're living this house, you have to do the work. So
Yep.
my husband and I have just been having this conversation. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. So I was actually thinking about starting to give her some like office work or some other work that she could start doing, and maybe paying her for that as she gets older.
Ooh, yeah.
I haven't gotten there. So if anybody has an answer, I would love to know, but I haven't figured out that right amount, because at 13, I do want her to start having a little bit of money that she can spend on her own and start making some decisions. But
Right.
it is, it's definitely challenging.
Yeah, it can't be a handout. And then explain this ticket thing again. How do they earn those?
So they get tickets for good behavior, and it's whatever tickets we want to give them, right? So I can give you one
Okay.
ticket for an A, or I can give you five if I knew that test was hard. It's whatever we feel like, right? If I'm having a
Mhm.
hard day and I'm like, I'm going to give you a ticket for just being quiet.
Yes. Yes, like your
Those
classic
days
example.
happen, right?
Yeah,
But then
yeah,
I can
yeah.
also give tickets away as much as I want, right? So like if you lie, you lose all of your tickets. Like, so there's certain things that I can take away. Hey, that was terrible behavior. You lose 5 tickets, you lose 10 tickets. You owe me 3 tickets for that. At the end of the month, they look at their tickets, and then we put them together, and it's like, 20, 30, 40 tickets, whatever. We're like, okay, you're going to save 20%. What's 20% of that? Okay, so here's a couple dollars for that. Go save that. Now you have this remainder. Now you can go to whatever store. It's usually Target, but we want
Yeah.
to go to, we want to buy something great. But it also helps me. I would say it's been a guardrail on me too, because you know how it is, especially with like girls. I like want to buy them all kinds of random clothes. And we're like, oh my God, you want to
I
buy this? You
know.
want to buy,
It's like
but like it's
accessories don't count.
right. It becomes this guardrail on me, because I'm like, well, you really want that? Like, oh, you want those jeans? Great. How many tickets is that? Oh, it's 50. Do you have 50? Do you have $50? Do you have that? Because I'm not sure if I have 50, but do you have $50? Oh, cool. Great. Then we can buy. So it just makes them
Yes.
start thinking about those things. And of course, I'm getting them all of their necessities, but it's just all of the things that are kind of above and beyond. It should never feel like they just want it and it shows up. And I
Yes.
think that sometimes can just lead to entitlement. And we want to make sure that they work for what they have.
100%. And this is something that we really need to download from our parents who were this immigrant generation. They had a scarcity mindset. We grew up with much more privilege and opportunity, so we don't. But that doesn't mean we swing the pendulum far the other way where we're too entitled and expect everything. So I
Right.
am so with you. And I'm definitely taking a cue on this ticket thing because we have our kids doing their chores. Like my 6-year old Trey, oh my God, he's so cute when he can fold his clothes Marie Kondo style.
Oh
Um,
my God.
yeah,
You're
because
like, "Well, you gotta
laundry
do
is
that."
a chore. Yeah, I mean, we were just like, okay, there's 5 of us. Mummy's not doing all the laundry every Sunday. Hell to the no. That's definitely not happening. And so it was actually Sunil, my husband, who really just like orchestrated this. He's like, we're having laundry day, and how many ever loads we have, we put it on. It's like happens to always just be in our master bedroom, but like it's like it goes on the big bed, and then everybody puts it into piles, and then they're folding and they're putting it in their drawers, and they definitely don't get paid for that. That is a non-negotiable, because when you're 15, what are you going to be like, Mom? I put my underwear where I need $5. Like, no. you know? So learn now, learn when you're younger. But I think the other skills that are more entrepreneurial, business, that's like the sweet spot where it's like, okay, you're doing extra,
Yeah,
and you get to choose how much you want to do of this, because how badly do you want this Lego set or whatever. So
exactly.
that's great. That's great. And then the tickets, are they Amazon like raffle tickets? I
Yeah, they're
want to
just like
like,
raffle tickets. Yeah, they're just raffle tickets.
okay, yeah, that's so fun. That's going in the
They
show notes too.
they make their own little ticket boxes, and they just keep putting them in there.
Oh my gosh. Amazing. Amazing. And now on to when they have to like challenge and negotiate with you, because even that is an art. Um, if kids really know how to manipulate and really make us do what they want. But when it comes to travel, you actually have them do like PowerPoint presentations and a whole pitch.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
So, one of the things my parents, I was very fortunate when I was younger. My parents traveled a lot, and I remember going to a lot of places and not actually knowing why I was going there or what I was doing there. And we'd kind of show up, and I would get there and be like, "Oh, I had a great vacation," but if you ask me now about some of those places, I may not know. And my parents will tell you it's because I was terrible and I hated going to the museum, which is totally true. I remember being like 12 and being like, this sucks. But the idea of this came from, we take all these trips, we do all these things. I want them to be fully present and really involved and engaged in it. So what they do is, before we go on any trip, we tell them the destination, and they have to create a slide deck on the cities that we're going to. So like last summer, we went to 8 cities. Each of them had 4, and they had to create a slide deck, and it's 5 slides per city. It's the things to do, like the best things to do. It's the foods that people eat. It's some facts about that place. So anything. And it's, it also includes like what is their bucket list or their items that they really want to do. And then they get to have like a fun kind of trivia slide with it. And they put all the stuff together. And then when we get to a city, they present that slide deck to us. So we put it on the smart TV at the hotel, and they present that slide deck to us, and they tell us about what they learned. Okay, well, and it was cool because they already had some ideas. So now when the tour guide is talking about things, they're like, wait, I had a question because I read this and that's not what you said. And so it makes a lot more part of it. And then at the end of the day, so if you have, like, let's say your city's Athens, I've got 2 girls. So if Sahana's city is Athens, then it's Sohini's job to take notes all day on that city. So she takes notes all day.
Ooh,
At the
okay.
end of the day, she has to have a 10-question quiz about that city. All of us pay adults versus kids to answer those questions. Hannah did a slide deck, so she should know, right, in this case.
Right.
Those questions. And then whoever wins gets to decide what the dessert is for the evening or what the plans are. And it's something silly, but they get so competitive. Even my husband, who's like, oh my God, do I really have to take notes? I'm like, no, you don't, but you can just remember. But he gets so competitive because it's like a quiz and it's really fun. And so everybody gets really competitive about it. We were just in Ecuador last week, and same kind of thing. All the kids had to make quizzes and take notes, and they just get really into it and they get involved. And then when we leave a city or when we leave a trip, they have to put it together with the 5 top points, because they're going to learn hundreds, but the 5 top points of, and it could be something silly. It could be like, oh, we were in Jaipur, the city used to be pink. Like, it doesn't need to be something groundbreaking, just facts you can remember. And they can write a song, they can make a commercial, or they can make a rap video about those things. And so it just makes them remember. And it's just so fun, and they love it. And it gives them something to do on planes and trains and automobiles.
Oh my goodness. Oh, you're just like a wealth of knowledge. I love it. I love how you're making us turn travel, which can be a very begrudging thing when you're schlepping kids along, into something fun. And it revives the fun for, the adults too. And I'm so with you. Like, my twins are 8 and my younger one is 6, and they love trivia. They love when they get to play Jeopardy in their classes, and so why not pique their interest there and do that? Sohana, I have a Sohana, which is so similar. And she just gave a presentation on the Statue of Liberty, which we just saw, this summer, actually, with cousins from Australia in town. But even that, like, I was so impressed with how she learned how to command a room. She had her poster board. She didn't look at it. And she was like, did you know there are 354 steps in the Statue of Liberty? And fun fact, it's like, and I was like, this is amazing.
Look at her mom is.
Yeah, I know. I was very, very proud. And I thought, okay, if they can hone in on this skill, and everyone can do it. This is for the listeners, of course, that make sure that you nurture that in your kids. And if they're not getting that in school, then do it with your family travel. Like, what did we do at Disney? You can clearly like make a game or a song or something out of it. So that's fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it always comes back to, and you and I talked about a little bit, those soft skills, because especially with AI, AIML, and everything else that's happening in every industry, a lot of jobs and what our kids are going to do looks completely different than what the jobs are today. And we don't even know what those jobs are going to be. And so trying to prepare them for those jobs today is almost a futile effort, because even if I look at what we do, our parents couldn't prepare us for the things that we do today, of no fault of theirs. It's just technology and everything has changed so much. So the best thing that we can do is teach them the soft skills that make up humanity. Like, humanity is not going anywhere. And AI and all of that may change things and may change jobs and what it looks like, but how to look someone in the eye, give a presentation, shake someone's hand, negotiate a contract, understand revenue. Like those things are not going anywhere. And if you can really teach your children that, then everything else becomes so much easier. And those are the people that even when I'm interviewing, I'm most excited to talk to.
Yes, yes. Oh my gosh, absolutely. And even with asking questions, the fact that you have your younger one asking the questions, like when you're in a room, don't be afraid to do that too. In addition to eye contact and the firm handshake and all that. Okay. What is next on the horizon for you? What are you excited about on the professional front, personal front?
So we are growing like crazy at Billergenie. We are 200 to 300% growth. We've been around since 2020. We are definitely older founders, and we're growing extremely fast and really excited about that kind of growth and what we've experienced. And that doesn't seem to be slowing anytime soon. We're opening a huge office down the street from where we are today because we've run out of space. And then we're also opening an office in Belfast, UK. So both of those offices are opening in June. We'll probably be at like 150 employees by the end of the year, 125, 150 employees at the end of the year. So really excited just to grow the culture, grow our partnerships, and become the de facto solution for small and mid-sized businesses to help them solve this problem that they have. And so really excited we're on that trajectory, and that's going to continue. On the personal front, I have my own charity called Brown Girls on a Mission, and it has been really exciting. I started that about less than a year ago. And it's all about service. It's not about it's not about writing a check because that's easy. It's about actual volunteerism. And the idea is that a person can, if you spent 2 to 4 hours a month giving back and just being kind, like how much different would the world be? And that's what we do. And so forcing ourselves and our children and everybody in the community to spend 2 to 4 hours a month, which is not that much, just giving back in any way and just being kind and being a community. So I'm really excited about the continued growth there and having my kids. They're very involved and they help with the marketing and they help with the business side and they help with all of that. And I want them to continue because we just can't build a strong community without that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well, we're going to reconnect again offline because I'd love to get my family involved. That's wonderful. I love it. And is there a mom sense moment? And by that, I mean you're a sixth sense. We all have it that you just can look back on and say, wow, I'm so glad I trusted that voice because it led to a great outcome.
I think for all of us, there's probably lots and lots of those moments.
Yeah.
For me, it generally tends to be around people, but especially with my older one who sometimes can be tentative and she will be like, I don't know if I want to do this. There's been a lot of moments where I feel like I have pushed her to do things I know are good ideas. And she's said absolutely not. And I've allowed her to go with that feeling. And that has probably been the most rewarding. Watching her make those decisions, watching her either be amazing and succeed in her own idea or fail and be like, oh, I just should have tried it differently. I think that's really hard to do. And that's been my mom's sense of just like, hey, the whole let them idea, like let them, I think that's been some of my mom's sense of like, hey, it's all going to work out. We're just going to let them. And none of this is going to change anything. Nothing's going to change. It's not going to change the world if we make this decision differently. But if we allow, I think my mom's sense has been a lot in the past few years of just, how do we just let them make decisions and let them fail?
Yes. Yes. That's so, so important because at the end of the day, our kids are not ours. They're individuals in their own right. And so, whatever pitfalls they face or the circumstances they have to navigate, that is their karma. And so, as much as we want to guardrail or protect it, like we got to let them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So it's so, so true. And now, where can our audience and listeners and viewers find you and follow you?
Absolutely. So LinkedIn is definitely the best way. Garima Shah. And obviously come find us at Billergenie. If you have a small business, we'd love to help you. Looking forward to talking to all of you.
Thank you, Garima. This was such a treat. Thank you so much for all of your fun, insightful feedback and help as we navigate this journey. It's so nice knowing that we have you in our corner. So thank you.
You as well. Thank you for all you do. Your podcast is incredible. I'm so honored to be a part of it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of That's Total Mom Sense. You can listen to the audio version wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for That's Total Mom Sense. You can learn more about my guests by logging on to www.thatstotalmomsense.com. Be sure to follow me on Instagram, where I'm most active on social media. My handle is @KanikaChadda-Gupta. And if you have ideas for show topics or guests you can't wait to have on the show, write to me at thatstotalmomsense@gmail.com. And lastly, please rate, review, and subscribe to That's Total Mom Sense if you haven't already. Thanks for being in my tribe.